Welcome to the webinar Energy Efficiency Actions in Georgia and Tbilisi, hosted by the Copenhagen Centre on Energy Efficiency. This webinar is part of the series Think Globally, Act Locally. We have seen global commitments to the action on climate change, and this series looks at what energy efficiency actions are underway at the national and city level. Some of you joined the webinar recently where we looked at Sustainable Development Goals, energy efficiency experiences from Denmark and Copenhagen, and an interesting district in Copenhagen called Nordhavn. Today's webinar is the second webinar in the series. It's entitled Energy Efficiency Actions in Georgia and Tbilisi. We've got over 100 participants that have registered in the webinar. My name's Tim Farrell, and I'm a senior advisor at the Copenhagen Centre on Energy Efficiency. The centre was formed in 2013 under an agreement between UN Environment, the Technical University of Denmark, and the Government of Denmark. The centre serves as the global energy efficiency hub of sustainable energy for all and supports the objective of doubling the global rate of energy efficiency improvement by 2030. The centre helps to coordinate and facilitate the development of SE for All work program and related energy efficiency activities globally by assisting policy change in countries and cities with knowledge, insights, and technical support. Accelerating energy efficiency through innovation in delivery models, public-private partnership formation, and project development. And finally, we also raise the profile of energy efficiency by communicating success and supporting outreach. The Centre has an established network of collaborations, including international organisations, development banks, including EBRD, that are represented today, regional partners, national and subnational governments, and today we're joined by representatives from Georgia and Tbilisi, and many other stakeholders. This slide illustrates how the Copenhagen Centre is placed centrally as Sustainable Energy for All's energy efficiency hub, with a network of collaborative partners. The Centre is helping to match the demand for energy efficiency from countries and cities with our supply network to turn plans and ambitions into an implementation reality. Just one example of these networks and a key project implementation partner includes Sustainable Energy for All's Global Energy Efficiency Accelerator platform, which is an outreach and implementation network. The platform currently comprises of 6 sector-based accelerators covering buildings, vehicle fuel efficiency, industry, district energy, appliances and lighting. So that's just one of the areas that we can help assist countries and cities and really try and help aspirational cities to meet their intentions. So in relation to where we are globally, we've seen many reports globally where there's need for greater action at the global level. We've seen World Economic reports showing there's a need for acceleration. The IEA showed a need for acceleration. And also the Copenhagen Centre has been working on the emissions gap report with its partners. And we know that we're well short of the 2 degrees and approaching the 1.5 degrees. And there's a great need for greater ambition, both from the countries and the cities. When we take into account the INDCs, there's still a huge remaining gap in the order of 12 to 14 gigatons of CO2 per year for the 2 degree scenario, and 15 to 17 gigatons of CO2 compared to the 1.5 degree scenario. When we looked in the 2016 report about how this can be bridged, we identified that non-state action, so companies, cities, subnational regions and investors, are very important to help close this gap. In addition to that, we understand also that there's huge opportunities across many of these sectors, including buildings, industry and transport. There's huge potential there. So this webinar is part of a series, Think Globally, Act Locally, really thinking about that, we've got these ambitious global goals and we need to dissipate that down at the country, city and district level to make sure that all the action that's needed is being implemented. So this series looks at exploring different levels of policy development and implementation, and links between them, and also investigates how high-level targets and policies get translated into local actions and vice versa, including how implementation of projects and programs can spur the policy change. We plan to have 4 more webinars during 2017, highlighting experiences from different countries and cities. So today's webinar, as I mentioned, is Energy Efficiency Actions in Georgia and Tbilisi. Many of you know or may have been lucky enough to visit Georgia, and it's a country in the Caucasus region of Eurasia, located at the crossroads between Eastern Europe and Western Asia, with a climate that's moderately humid subtropical, with cold winters and hot summers. The capital and largest city is Tbilisi, and as I said, today's webinar is on the energy efficiency actions in both Georgia and Tbilisi. I'd like to now introduce our speakers of today and thank them for their time. The first speaker is Natalia. She's a Chief Specialist in the Energy Efficiency and Alternate Energy Division at the Ministry of Energy in Georgia. Natalia has been instrumental in the development of the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan for Georgia. Natalia is going to be followed by Mikheil, who's the Head of Innovation Support Unit in Tbilisi Municipality City Hall. And this unit is responsible for bringing innovations and new technologies to the city and designing and implementing projects on energy efficiency. Then we're going to hear from Remon and Vesselina from EBRD. And Remon's an Associate Director at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, or EBRD, in the Energy Efficiency and Climate Change team. His role is to lead the team's effort in delivering the bank's green economy transition initiative objectives in the southern and eastern Mediterranean region and also in Georgia. Vesselina is a Principal Counsel at the EBRD's Office of the General Counsel in London. Vesselina and Remon have assisted the Government of Georgia develop the first National Energy Efficiency Action Plan in Georgia, and will continue supporting the government with the development of the primary legal framework for energy efficiency. So here's today's agenda. We will conclude, so you'll hear from Natalia about energy efficiency policy development in Georgia. Mikheil will then tell us about energy efficiency actions in Tbilisi. And then Remon and Vesselina will talk about investments in energy efficiency, challenges and opportunities, perspectives from EBRD. And then we're going to have a question and answer session. So please feel free to post your questions at any time during the webinar using the question function on your GoToWebinar panel. And please indicate the speaker you'd like to address the question to. I would just briefly mention that the Copenhagen Centre's knowledge management system, this is where the webinars can be posted at the conclusion within a few days of the webinar. So feel free to see this webinar or others on our knowledge management system that's got a wealth of information. Okay, so to kick off, I'll transfer to Natalia and hand over to Natalia to talk about energy efficiency in Georgia. Thanks, Natalia.
Thanks, team. Good afternoon from Tbilisi, Georgia. I'm Natalia Jamburia from Ministry of Energy of Georgia, representing Division of Energy Efficiency and Alternative Energy. As Tim mentioned, I will talk about energy efficiency policy development in Georgia, which recently became top priority of the policy. And it was driven by several internal and external conditions and factors. The great and major internal factor, driver of the energy efficiency promotion, is increasing on energy demand in electricity and in natural gas. For example, in last decades, in 2006 and in 2016, an average annual increase electricity consumption is 3.5. There are also important increase of natural gas, which is mainly imported. Therefore, together with maximum utilization of local renewable energy resources, energy efficiency became a priority of the country. The new energy policy, which was adopted in 2015, highlights that one of core directions of energy policy is creation of unified approach on energy efficiency and its execution. Year of 2015 was very interesting in terms of international commitments as well. This is a time when Georgia submitted INDC in Bonn before the Paris Agreement. And before that submitting INDC, Georgia signed an association agreement with EU, which fully entered into force in 2016. Association agreement significantly strengthened political association and economic integration between Georgia and the EU and illustrates a deep mutual commitments based on shared values and interests in the areas of democracy and the rule of law, human rights, fundamental freedoms, good governance, and market economy, and of course sustainable development, which is compromising with energy efficiency, renewable energy, and environmentally friendly activities. Furthermore, the agreement commits Georgia to an ambitious reform agenda in the different key areas, and among them is energy. The major commitment is signing the protocol on the accession of Energy Community Treaty, which was organized in 2016, and this protocol was ratified by Parliament of Georgia in 2017. As I mentioned, in 2015, Georgia submitted INDC. According to the INDC, Georgia plans to unconditionally reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 15% below the business as usual scenario for the year of 2030. This is equal to reduction in emission intensity per unit of GDP by approximately 34% from 2013 to 2030. The 15% reduction target can be increased up to 25% if Georgia will be supported from international donor organizations, if Georgia will be supported by international expertise. So if Georgia could reach a 25% reduction, this will be equivalent to reduction of emission intensity per unit of GDP by approximately 43% from 2013 to 2030. The 25% reduction below both scenario would also ensure that Georgian greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 will stay at 40% below the 1990 levels. Besides INDC commitments, Georgian government is promoting and leading different projects and programs supported by different donor organizations. I will highlight out of them the low emission development strategy, which is supported by USAID. Currently, it will be finalized soon, the low emission development strategy of Georgia. Let's is also part of INDC's pre-mitigation action, along with the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan, which is a major and main document of ministries in terms of energy efficiency promotion policy. A National Energy Efficiency Action Plan was elaborated with help of EBRD's technical assistance. It was elaborated based on energy efficiency directive requirements and, of course, characteristics of the Georgian economic and energy sectors were considered. There are a number of very interesting and ambitious energy efficiency policy measures, as well as sectorial measures in power sector, industry, transport, building, public sector, and services. Also, there is a very interesting and important program which is supported by the Danish government. It is DENIDA project, consultancy on sustainable energy development and energy efficiency in Georgia, which is mainly focused on formulation of Georgian legislation and to introduce energy efficiency standards in building regulation, energy efficiency product labeling, as well as improving energy statistics according to the Eurostat requirements. Also elaboration grid code in order to enable Georgian national grid to absorb non-hydro renewable energy. And all these mentioned policy measures are followed by the demonstration project, which is feasibility studies for the public buildings and awareness raising and training of energy auditors. As for the NIAP, I would like to mention that it was multi-sectoral engagement. Different government organizations, private sectors was engaged. Several workshops was conducted, and on behalf of Ministry of Energy, I could mentioned that it is very solid document which will follow with the next step, which is elaboration of primary energy efficiency law, expected to be launched in this year, summer, and it is also will supported by EBRD as well. As for the other future steps, according to the protocol on accession to the Energy Community Treaty, Georgia has to approximate its legislation and energy efficiency directive has to be transported into the national legislation by 2018. Same is for the energy labeling of the products. It is also has to be done by 2018. And as for the energy performance of building directive, that has to be integrated into the national legislation by 2019. This was in brief what I wanted to mention about Georgia's policy directions to energy efficiency. If you have questions, I am happy to respond during the question and answer session. Thank you. Now I will pass the floor to my colleague Mikheil, who will talk about Tbilisi commitment and steps to energy efficiency.
Thank you, Natalia. My name is Mikheil Ukleba. I represent Tbilisi Municipality City Hall, Economic Development Office, Innovation Support Unit. So today I will speak about energy efficiency projects in the city and international commitment. In 2010, Tbilisi City Hall joined the initiative Covenant of Mayors, which said that Tbilisi should become a low-carbon city by 2020. A goal that will be reached through the support of social and economic development of the city. In order to hit the target, Tbilisi City Hall created Sustainable Energy Action Plan for Tbilisi. CO2 emissions must be reduced 20% by 2020. CIAP is covering the following sectors, which are transport, buildings in the city, municipal infrastructure, environment and landscaping. City Hall wants to renew CIAP document in order to have new measures and to synchronize with NIAP document and Green City Action Plan. We're waiting for both documents to be confirmed in the nearest future. Also, there is an idea to change SIAP with SECAP, where climate change component will be added, and the target will be reducing CO2 emissions by 30% by 2030. Also, I want to mention transport sector projects. The Tbilisi Bus project. The project was started in 2016, and the idea was to modernize the bus operation systems in the city. In the scope of the project, we bought 143 CNG main city buses. The buses are already in Tbilisi, and some of them are already operating in the city. The project budget was 39 million euro. The EBRD provided loan of 27 million euro, and also there were different international donors. Also, I want to mention Eastern European Energy Efficiency and Environment Partnership, E5P, which contribution was 7 million euro in this project. Also, another big project in transport sector, we have extension of subway line to university. This is the Sabotao district. The tunnel has been already built, and the completion of the metro extension is 1.5 kilometers long. In this investment program were conducted civil works and also new station. The subway station will start to operate this summer 2017. For this project, ADB has provided loan of 35 million euros. In 2015, ILIPIL Technology Development Fund, which was under umbrella of City Hall, initiated a project of rehabilitation of Tbilisi. First, the project envisioned restoration of existing building with the solar collectors, geothermal pumps, photovoltaic system, energy efficient boiler, and renovation of building to reduce emissions and provide a pilot for further measures for Tbilisi quality management. I want to add that this pilot project was to replicate for other kindergartens, and in 2017 we will have 10 new energy efficient buildings, kindergartens in the city. Another project on which we are working right now and is ongoing to design a project of full energy efficient rehabilitation of city and 9 strategies. The project provides energy audit and preparation of energy efficient project labeling and establishment of policy papers. The pilot project is implemented in order to establish a cost-effective green lifestyle in Tbilisi and to support awareness of energy efficiency in public in Tbilisi. The project was financed by Tbilisi whole local budget, which was 295,000 Georgian laris. Another project which I want to mention, this is EBRD initiative of green cities. The green city actions are set to enhance cities' environment performance and is to maximize economic and social co-benefits. This links between economic and social and environmental objectives to provide additional motives for city leaders. And after the project is finished, we'll have completed green city action plan. There will be trainings and capacity buildings conducted for workshops for municipality and other stakeholders. And this document is covering different sectors like transport and different other sectors. So all the projects which one are ongoing. So if you have any questions, I'm ready to respond. I'm giving floor to another representative.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Remon Zakaria and Vesselina from the EBRD. So we are going to start a presentation on EBRD's activities in the green economy areas, which is our main focus. First, we would like to introduce what is the EBRD. So for those that are not familiar, it's a multilateral financing institution that was established in 1991 and currently owned by 65 countries, the EU and the EIB, and is operating in 36 countries globally, as you can see here in the map. And we've been active in Georgia from the very start as well. The EBRD finances approximately 10 billion euros per year of investments currently. And energy efficiency has been part of the mandate of the bank since 1994, when there was an energy efficiency banking team established. This team at the time was mainly focusing on district heating and other municipal projects, and then has evolved in 2006 into a more bank-wide initiative, which was called the Sustainable Energy Initiative in 2006, where with the aim of mainstreaming energy efficiency, renewable energy in all economic activities of the bank. So this initiative has then evolved into the Sustainable Resource Initiative and to the Green Economy Transition recently, with the aim to include and further scale up the bank's focus on green economy, which would then increase the scope for investment into new areas such as environmental protection and also water efficiency and resource efficiency as well. Currently, the EBRD invests approximately 30 to 33% of its annual business investments into this area, into green economy. And the aim of this initiative is to reach 40% by 2020. So far, the EBRD has invested 22.2 billion euros of green financing since 2006, when the Sustainable Energy Initiative was initially started, in over 1,200 projects, and with an emission reduction of 84 million tons of CO2 per year, which is equivalent to the twice of the emissions of Sweden, for example. The business model that the EBRD works with is to combine EBRD financing with other commercial or concessional finance, and support technical assistance and policy dialogue that would enable such investments to materialize, so such green investment to happen. And we have been also active in Georgia in that respect, and invested 403,059,000 projects in the green projects, which account for approximately 21% of the total volume of financing performed by the bank in Georgia. This figure is below what we have in terms of targets, but this is also because we started our operation in Georgia far before the Sustainable Energy Initiative, therefore far before there was an accounting, a specific accounting of the green finance that we were performing in the country. In terms of activities, we are active both directly with corporates through some specific programs and resource efficiency, energy efficiency, resource efficiency auditing programs, and indirectly through credit lines, where we have, this Energo credit line that may be familiar to some of you in Georgia. Supported again by technical assistance and some incentives. As also the previous speaker have mentioned, we are active also with the municipality of Tbilisi for the development of a green economy, green city action plan, which would help prioritizing different investments.
Thanks, Remon. I'll jump in quickly. My name is Vesselina. Hello from London, and thanks for organizing this seminar. As my colleague Remon mentioned, in addition to investments and technical assistance, the bank also provides assistance and support to governments and national authorities in developing policies and primary and secondary legislation in particular areas. And here we are talking about the green economy. So I would like to highlight the policy dialogue that the bank has been leading since 2014. And as one product of that was the support for the drafting of Georgia's first National Energy Efficiency Action Plan, the one that Natalia referred to. So our work is now in its second year, and we have undertaken, with the assistance of a consultant, several consultations with government officials as well as with donor organizations and IFIs acting in Georgia. And I would like to restate the commitment of the government to reduce dependence on energy imports and enhance energy security, and their support for adopting the priority energy efficiency measures that we have proposed in this Energy Efficiency Action Plan. As a follow-up, we plan to continue providing support with the development of a primary energy efficiency law that would implement the priority energy efficiency measures, as well as with continuous capacity building.
Thank you, Vesselina. In terms of the instruments that the EBRD have devised to support green investments, we have two main streams. One is the indirect lendings through a product called Sustainable Energy Financing Facilities, now also rebranded as Green Economy Financing Facilities. This instrument is active in Georgia and has enabled to commit with 6 banks $67.4 million, and successfully it does them with sub-borrowers for 48 corporate projects and 31,500 residential projects. This credit line mainly, how it works is that the EBRD provides a credit line to the local banks and supports them with a consultancy firm that would help them to market this product to the right client base, which are the borrowers in this slide, and also help the borrowers in identifying and prioritizing energy efficiency measures and investments to be then funded through this program, and that would also benefit from incentives in the range of 10 to 15% in the specific case of this facility. Another instrument that we have available in Georgia is called FinTech. We have already provided this, five clients have already benefited from this scheme. It's an incentive scheme that supports technologies with low market penetration, both on energy and water efficient technologies, and offers up to 25% grant to cover such technologies along with EBRD lending. I go back again to my colleague.
Thanks, Remon. I'd like to give you a brief overview of selected measures that we have included in the NEAP. Just as an overview, the measures included are more than 40, but the NEAP has a 3-year planning horizon for implementation of energy efficiency measures. So as part of the consultation process, with the assistance of the Ministry of Energy, we have focused on priority energy efficiency measures that are cost-effective for the governments to consider implementing in the coming 3 years, so until 2020. As Natalia mentioned, the government has chosen to implement an energy efficiency directive-based NEAP template, both in terms of the format and the measures, with, of course, adjustment to Georgia's characteristics. But in some of, as I mentioned, there is a level of adjustment. So instead of certain schemes like energy efficiency obligation scheme, Georgia is planning to implement a set of alternative policy measures, which are linked with technical and investment measures, with the overall aim to reduce final energy consumption. Such measures you would see here, horizontal measures. These include financing schemes for energy efficiency, incentivizing energy efficiency in industry, training and education, including energy advisory programs, standards and norm and labeling schemes in appliances. So overall, the NEAP consists of horizontal measures as well as sector-specific measures. So these are the industry policy measures. You'll see policy sector and building policy measures, transport and primary energy sector policy measures. In terms of priority measures, as I mentioned, setting up the Energy Efficiency Agency with a broad scope for intervention is one of the recommendations that EBRD has made. And the initial initiatives of this agency should focus on projects and investment flow identification, coordination amongst donors, facilitation of grant making, as well as focusing on replicating of successful models of energy efficiency across the various sectors. Other measures, I'm not going to get into detail, but I'm happy to take any questions. These include gradual introduction of energy audits and management systems with a primarily focus on energy enterprises initially, boiler inspection in the industry section. The government has already started with the support of donors of elaborating on standards and norms and certification schemes for buildings, so transposing the energy performance of building directive and its enforcement. The other measures include mandatory labeling for electrical home appliances, making some adjustments in the legislation on procurement procedures in order to include a component on green procurement in line with the Energy Efficiency Directive. Another measures that is relatively easy and cost-effective to introduce. This is in the building sector and in the public sector. This is relation to lighting, and we have pointed to specific measures and interventions required for the government to take. And in some sectors, such as the energy sector, a number of measures are already underway, and number of investments. This is, as you will see here, policies investments aim to rehabilitate the hydropower assets, as well as optimization of reserves and seasonal operational regimes. So I will stop here. We will move to the next slide just to summarize, and then we can go back if there are any in the Q&A session.
Thank you. So as we see, based on our experience in Georgia, we can see a number of opportunities and as well as challenges to investments in energy efficiency. Certainly, the lack of enabling current lack of enabling policies is a key barrier for such investments. However, on the other hand, the current progress that the government is taking to overcome such barriers, such as with the NEAP and other commitments with the Energy Community Secretariat, are showing that there is also an opportunity with these reforms to really enable such investments. There is also a clear challenge with what concern the number of professionals and the capacity to support industries, for example, in prioritizing energy efficiency investments. And so clearly, as part of the policies and as part of the barriers to be removed, more training and awareness of the local professionals into this area is key to enable technology transfer and to enable investments in energy efficiency. We also trust that there are a number of IFIs and a number of donors that are active currently in Georgia that could help the government and the companies, the private sector, in delivering on the ambitious goals that are set forth into the national determined contributions, and we also trust that price signals could also help paving the way for further investments in this area. I think I will conclude, and I would like to thank you, and I will pass the speech to Tim.
Thank you, Remon and Vesselina, for your interesting presentation, and to all our presenters, Natalia and Mikheil before them, thank you very much. We've come to the end of the actual presentation, so as I mentioned, participants, if you'd like to send any questions through, please do so on the GoToWebinar. We've received some questions, so I'll address those, but as I say, feel free to send any others through. The first question for Natalia, and maybe Remon or Vesselina, but I'll maybe start with Natalia. But the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan is obviously a comprehensive strategy covering key sectors. What are some of the key actions that will deliver some of your biggest benefits?
Thank you, Tim, for your question. I think most important is horizontal measures, policy measures. Remon mentioned that enabling policy is a challenge, and it is not challenging only for industry. Unless there is no primary energy efficiency law, it is difficult to move forward to reach aims and targets. And after the policy is in place, then sectorial measures are also important and easy, relatively easy to implement. I would highlight industry sector, which is represented by private sector. If policy is in place, private sector gets a signal and they are moving forward, because even now when policy is not there, they are trying to introduce energy efficiency in their technology cycle, in their production. Yes, that's I think very important. First of all, policy has to be in place.
Thank you, Natalia. There was a sort of a follow-up question related to that, is how energy efficiency improvement is measured in Georgia, and I imagine that in the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan that it's going to be quite a big effort in terms of measuring impact. But just if you can comment briefly on how energy efficiency improvement is being measured.
How they've been measured. According to the calculations which was done by international and local experts. By the way, I have to mention that we had an excellent team who did a great job in elaboration and drafting the project. According to the estimations and calculations of measures, energy reductions from the above scenario, which can be reached for 2020 in primary energy is approximately 10%. For 2025, 16, and for 2030, it can be 17 primary energy in saving. So it is quite solid numbers, let's say that. And for final energy potential, final energy saving potential, what can be reached is for 2020, it can be 7%. Target can be determined as a 7%. In 2025, it can be 11%, and for 2030, it can be 13%. I hope I answered your question.
Thanks, Natalia. The sort of final question, just in relation to, there's been a few presentations mentioning the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan. When might people expect it to be released, if you know? And also there was a question about whether Georgia has a green building code.
Green building code, such as it's not in place yet. However, Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development, who is responsible party for energy efficiency in building sector, and not only in the building sector, I have to mention that Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia was the main and key stakeholder in the process of elaboration of action plan, National Energy Efficiency Action Plan, because the major energy consuming sectors, which is industry, transport, building, it is under the responsibility of Ministry of Economy, and we had and we are having very close cooperation in this regard. And going back to your question, they are currently working on elaboration of and formulation of the energy efficiency regulation for building sector, which is being implemented under the Danida project, which I mentioned in my presentation, and also to my information, platform which was established for supporting Eastern Partnership countries, and Georgia is among them. This is EU for Energy, which is joint force of Energy Community Secretariat, Energy Charter, and International Energy Agency. They are also having plans to support Georgia's legislation in terms of reflecting directive on energy efficiency. Building EPBD directive, energy performance of directive. So until 2019, we are hoping that we will have energy efficiency regulations in place. Thanks,
Natalia. Mikheil, a question has come through. You mentioned about your targets for 2020, and given that we're starting to approach 2020, how's things tracking in terms of your target, and where do you see that Tbilisi needs to put some more effort or new effort in priority areas?
Thank you for your question, Tim. We are doing monitoring of CEAP we have done in 2015, and will be done in this year. Some measures still has to be fulfilled and done, because I think that the biggest sector that we should target, it will be buildings and transport too, because as I mentioned, we have some projects in transport sector, but still not enough. We need more energy efficient buses. We need renovation of subway system, which is very old, and ADB is now working on in the direction just to optimize the bus system, and also we're thinking about renovation subway system. But also we have, on the other hand, buildings. With the project that I mentioned about the city hall and other 9 administrative district buildings, this will be like demonstrative project, and I think it will help other organizations to start thinking how to renovate buildings into energy efficiency. So these are I think main 2 sectors which we should take care of.
Thanks, Mikheil. There's also, you mentioned there was a question in relation to your improving energy efficiency of municipal buildings. If the intent is to show leadership, influence investments and behaviour for other commercial building owners, how does Tbilisi and the City Hall intend to communicate some of these results?
About commercial buildings, we don't have anything right now, but I will mention that we already started working to make some kind of system for rehabilitation other public buildings. So the system should, we don't know yet, but the system should work like that people, citizens should put some of their budget, also city also should put some of their budget, and we should start to renovate the buildings. So we're working on this system. I think till the end of this year, there will become some kind of system. We're taking some other experiences from other countries. We have already also some workshops done with them, and I think at the end of the year we will have some kind of system for that.
Thanks, Mikheil. A question for Remon and Vesselina. Natalia mentioned the ambition of the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan could be strengthened with more finance. From your experience in Georgia and Tbilisi, how does EBRD see the future bankability of energy efficiency actions in Georgia and Tbilisi?
Thanks, Timothy, for your question. I think the EBRD is fairly open for considering investments. In Georgia, we are, in fact, as mentioned, deeply involved in seeking opportunities in this area, both through this green economy action plan, green city action plan, and also through the current activities that we are performing both with private sector, for example, in renewable energy infrastructure, in private sector investments in energy efficiency, and also in devising products or instruments such as credit lines. We think that the challenge of let's say the overall investments required by the NEAP lies more with the let's say the budget constraints that the state might have, or the commitments that they might have with the IMF, for example, for what concern taking additional state or public investments. So the challenge would be to find the right balance to achieve the goals or increase, have even more ambitious goals with maybe more private sector participation, while still achieving the goals set forth in the NEAP, and maybe even more ambitious than that.
Great, thank you. There's also been a number of questions come through in relation to just sort of the coverage of EBRD in terms of supporting action in other areas around the world. Would you be able to just briefly, again, summarise the sort of coverage that EBRD has for our participants?
By coverage, you mean the regions that we currently cover, or the volume of investments? Which kind of
the questions around regions? Which regions do you cover? For example, someone's asked about Latin America, but I thought it might be useful to understand the regions that you cover.
Okay. How the EBRD, let's say, was funded was mainly to support former Soviet Union countries in 1991. So this was the original region of the EBRD, so all former Soviet countries. This region has then expanded over time for a number of reasons. To Western Balkans, Turkey is one of our key countries of operation. And then we have also, after the Arab Spring, the EBRD has also expanded to Arab countries which are in transition from the previous regimes and the newly politics. So we are currently active, let's say, in the former Soviet countries, Western Balkans, Greece and Cyprus, Turkey, and the southern eastern Mediterranean region, which is Egypt, Jordan, Morocco, and Tunisia. I guess. And
just to add briefly, even though EBRD was set up with a mandate, as Remon mentioned, to focus on the region behind the Berlin Wall, it's been expanding, and recently at the annual meeting, we have also included other countries from the region, from the North African region. So we expect to begin operations in Lebanon and other regions like West Bank and Gaza. So it's an ongoing process of expansion, and it really is to serve the needs of the countries as well as the objectives of our shareholders that were mentioned in the initial slides.
Thank you very much. The final question is for all panelists, and we might, since we're with Remon and Vesselina, we might ask them to start, and then Mikheil might make a comment, and then Natalia finally. Just from your experience, as you know, this is part of the Think Globally, Act Locally webinar series, and I just wondered, from your experience, what do you think is one of the most effective ways to transfer global goals into national or city level action? What's some of the most one of the most effective ways, just from your experience?
Well, I think there is no, let's say, copy-paste kind of approach that could be, let's say, taken from other countries. We trust that, let's say, each country has its challenges, has its opportunities, and has its potential to reduce greenhouse gas emission and improve resilience to climate change. And I think we think that while the global targets are let's say the top-down approach is very important to have an aim, it is equally and even more important in our opinion to go in depth into an assessment on the country level, sectors, contributions to greenhouse gas emissions in each sector, and then go even deeper into the local contributions. But obviously, we trust that this needs to happen at national level. So there need to be, an analysis on a national level to determine where are the low-hanging fruits.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think in this process it's important, of course, to be informed by the global and the international tendencies. And in this more and more open and globalized world, there are approaches that and models that countries try to replicate. But it's essential, and I think that's one of the strengths of EBRD, is working with the local players. So engaging with authorities as well as working with the private sector, working with municipalities, even with communities in certain projects where it's quite relevant. So eventually, as it was enshrined also in the Paris Agreement, the bottom-up approach is key for developing this national response, local response to climate change and to climate resilience.
Thank you. Mikheil, did you want to make a comment?
Yes. So I totally agree with my colleagues that it's very difficult just to replicate everything which is in one country to another one, because there are different approaches and there are some kind of issues which some countries are facing, like us, because we have lack of funds. So, and we have some kind of initiatives. So to hit the targets and to implement all the projects which we have on a global scale, it's very difficult for us. So I think it's a little bit difficult for us to fulfill all the measures and activities which we have in our commitment.
Thank you. And Natalia, did you want to make a quick comment?
Sure. Of course, I agree with my colleagues. First of all, each country has to have a policy will, commitment, technology transfer, and funds has to be tailored to each country. Approaches, international best practice has to be tailored to the country characteristics. After that, we all could succeed and reach the aims and goals at global.
Great, thank you. Well, listen, it's been a fascinating webinar, and I would like to thank all of our panelists for their contributions. We heard from Natalia from the Ministry of Energy of Georgia, covering Georgia's policy directions and trends on energy efficiency, as well as highlighting some of the actions captured in its first National Energy Efficiency Action Plan, adoption of EU law, and other building-related activities. Then we heard from Mikheil from the Tbilisi Municipality City Hall, highlighting its goals and Sustainable Energy Action Plan for Tbilisi, and highlighted a number of other energy efficiency projects that have been completed or underway in the city. And then Remon and Vesselina from EBRD outlined its overarching green economy initiative, as well as highlighting some of the EBRD investments and instruments in Georgia, as well as highlighted some of the challenges and opportunities that they see occurring in Georgia. So thank you to all our panelists for their presentation and insights on energy efficiency activities in Georgia and its capital, Tbilisi, and their thoughtful responses to the many questions. And also thank you to the participants for their engagement and their insightful questions. They're really interesting. So thank you all for your time, and we are wishing you an enjoyable day from Copenhagen, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Thank you very much. Goodbye.